If you're an author doing direct sales from your website into your readers' hands, you need to make sure you have a storefront on your website. Now, this is a full masterclass series here on the channel, so make sure you hit the subscribe and notification bell and follow the playlist. You need to watch this in order, so make sure you go to the other episodes first, and then you're going to create a storefront on your website. Now, you can do this entirely on your own. I have a course on how to design your website by yourself without needing a professional, drag and drop, so easy. I also have a full tutorial on how you can use a program called Leadpages to do the exact same thing, and that is a really good opportunity for you to then be able to connect it to your newsletter and to all the things that you're going to be sending out. We've talked about this in the past episodes as well, so I have a full tutorial on how to do that. This is just the design elements of that, so go watch those other videos if you need the step-by-step process of how to do that. Now, with this in mind, there are a couple of ways that you can be doing this. You can go with a more modern version. You can go with a more classic version. You can do this however you want, and it's going to be on your website. So this is not something that you are just like putting on Shopify or something. This is something you're designing on your website. When people come to your website, they need to be able to click on your books and to see your books and importantly, your book hooks and your book blurbs. These then link out to your sales pages. This was in a previous episode where we talk about your checkout cart page and your sales pages. So you need to be looking at those for the specific designs and the information you need to have in there to make these sales. This is just our pretty storefront where people decide, oh, I want to look at this book. Oh, I want to look at this book. And we're going to build this out for you. So again, designing this goes with your website. It goes with the branding of your website, however you're designing it color-wise and layout-wise. You can do it more contemporary and modern. You can do it more classic, whatever you want to do. This is actually really very easy to do. So I start out with this, and I'm going to show you two different versions of this, by the way. I start out with having my normal website stuff up at the top so that people can see it as an integrated part of my website. Unlike the sales pages, unlike the checkout cart pages that look different and don't necessarily have those headers, we do have it here on our storefront page. You can have a header graphic if you would like, or you can go directly into the books that you're going to be putting out. And this is more of a contemporary modern look where they're going to scroll down and they're going to see each of these individual things. So we've got each of the books in a 3D form. You need to have these in a 3D form because we are selling, for the most part, your physical books. You may be selling ebooks here, and that's fine. Have it on an iPad. Have it on a phone. Don't just have the flat image. That's not going to work to your benefit. Have it in the 3D because when it's 3D, now all of a sudden people associate that with having it in their home, having it in their hands, and when they can see things in their own personal space, they're much more likely to buy. So you want to make sure you have that 3D version of your book here. You're going to have your title. If you have a tagline or a subtitle, you can have that there as well. And then you have your blurb. Have your blurb that you've crafted and created to sell your book. Paste it right in. And that's it. That's all you need. And you can decide here. You can decide if you want to build this out where you just have like the book and the title and a tagline or a little bit about it, and then they go to the sales page for the blurb, or you can have the entire blurb here. That is up to you. More contemporary, more modern, more classic. It is up to you how much information you have on your storefront, but you always have to have an individualized button that takes them then to the sales page. So if you're following along, if you've been paying attention to this series, we are going to be designing your sales page, your checkout cart, and your storefront differently. They lead into each other. From your storefront, it leads to your sales page with lots of information, graphics, details, stuff to get them hooked and purchasing your book. And then your checkout cart is limited information specifically to get the information you need to sell. This is where they make the buying purchase decision. So this is going to be a little information, a lot of information, no information, literally just selling it. So we're going through this funnel system, taking them to the process of actually buying the book. So have all of your information there. You can divide it by lines if you want more of that modern look and have each of them in their own sections. And you can see it's just cover, title, blurb, buy button. Then you can scroll through and you can see all of those there, how easy it is to look. This is especially effective on mobile devices. This clean, modernized look is really good for your mobile devices. And you have to think when you're designing this must go with mobile devices. Yes, people will come to it on your desktop website, but it has to be mobile friendly. This version, very mobile friendly. You can see how easy that is for people to scroll through. Now, this next version is going to be a little bit more of a classic version. We're going to expect to see more of this on the desktop version. It also integrates very similarly to the other version in that mobile format. It's going to look pretty similar, but we've designed it a little bit differently. So you can see up at the top, we've got just the basic information of the website. You can have the word books, some kind of header explaining, hey, this is the storefront. This is where you're going to be looking and buying. And then you can have something along the lines of books scrolling through. So you can see how, as we're doing that, those are just going to go across screen. Now that I've stopped on it, it's paused, but you can see how it's just going to go through all the options of books that we have. If you have more than one book, you can be doing scrolling things that's going to get their attention and kind of show off, hey, there's a full collection here. Here's some things that you might want to know if you're not scrolling far enough. You're going to have some type of division here, and we're going to get started with this. You can have these elements boxed off if you want. You can just have them in columns. You can have more, you can have less. Your goal here is to make it very much look like a normal sales page on anybody's website, Barnes & Noble, Amazon, where you have lots of different versions of books that you can be buying. This is also reminiscent of your Kindle readers when you open it up and they have the books on the shelves so that people can easily recognize this format. This is something everybody gets. It's classic, it's timeless, and you have the information that you need in there. So you are going to have here that you are going to have your book covers, just like before in that 3D format. You're going to have your book title, but instead of having a blurb, now we've got just a little hook, just a little information about what this happens to be. So I could put my entire blurbs here, but because they're in those columns and they're tightly together, you can see how that's going to be extremely overwhelming and hard to read. So for this, you're going to have just a little information. You can kind of see how I've pointed out that other authors are calling it this, that, or the other thing. Sometimes they're going to have those comp titles in there. Sometimes it's just a little blur, but you want it relatively the same size. So if you're just doing a single sentence, keep it to a single sentence every single time. If you're going to have a short paragraph, keep it to relatively the same to make sure it is more or less uniform on your book. And of course, when it's bigger, when the page is going to be bigger here, it's going to be more spaced out. It's not going to look quite so cluttered. But because I'm actually showing you an older version with some weird hiccups in it, this is the version you're getting on this one. And so you are going to then be able to go down and you can say, this is from an old website that I had. I took them to the World Portal where they could learn more about it, but this will take you to the sales page, right? So you're just going to have this very basic layout with a couple in a column, and then you're going to have the information about it as they scroll down, and then you're going to end your website how that is. Now, this is really important because it needs to be familiar to them and it needs to be mobile friendly to them. So this one, the one that I just showed you, is going to rearrange itself so it's just one at a time as they scroll down through it because it's a mobile friendly design. And on the desktop, it's going to look a little bit more like a typical storefront that we would see. And so you want to make sure that you put your best sellers up top, the ones that you anticipate selling most of or that you want to sell most of, the most eye-catching covers, the most purchased on Amazon, the most purchased on Barnes & Noble. Have your best sellers for you and your collection at the top. First things, the things that you'll be recognized for, the things that people are going to buy first. Then you can design this so that it looks pretty. Sometimes you're going to find as you're adding things, if you do it in kind of like a chronological order from when you wrote it, it's not going to look the prettiest. You might have two red books right next to each other when it might look better spaced out. So you have to look into the visual design of this to make sure it's going to really effectively pop as people are scrolling through it. So after the first couple of books, your first 3 to 5 books, then it's mostly for aesthetics sake. So have your top couple of sellers, 3 to 5, up at the top in the order which make you the most money or you would prefer to sell most of. Then go down and just do it based on prettiness, based on what looks good together in the desktop format. It doesn't really matter as people are scrolling through mobile because it'll just be one at a time. But on the desktop, you gotta have those visual cues for people because that guides them into making the decisions. And then, of course, you need your button that takes them into the sales page that eventually takes them into the sales cart so that you can check them out and make those sales. Now, as always, we are answering your questions. This is an ongoing series where I'm helping you to save time and effort creating your direct sales through your website as somebody who's been doing this for well over a decade now. And I want to make sure that we are helping to answer your questions. So follow along. There's a lot of videos still coming in this series, but it's an open-ended series. So if you have more questions that I don't answer right now, please drop them because I will do more episodes on that. I'll also bring in other experts to help teach on this as well. And of course, there are daily videos helping you navigate the world of your publishing, from your writing to your publishing to your marketing, to make this your most profitable and most stress-free year ever. So we'll see you in the upcoming episodes.